So, good day, everybody. My name is Christian Hein. I'm from Mathys, working as a product manager and head of product management. Together with Professor Pfeil, we both developed the system, the bone preservation system. And I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction to this. So when we started, we actually were talking to Professor Pfeil and other surgeons and said, okay, what are actually the clinical challenges in total hip arthroplasty? And what we saw is, first of all, every hip is different. So if we look at the hips, we do have dysplastic hips, we have varus hips, we have valgus hips, we have a lot of different things, but we also have to think about offset. And as you heard earlier this morning, offset is quite crucial. And actually looking at all of the CT data and these publications, we could see that there's a variation of about 4 centimeters of offset, which you have to reconstruct with a straight stem. So this is actually almost not possible. 4 centimeters is quite large. So the goal is, how can we reconstruct femoral offset with this kind of variation? Doing this and taking the other thought in our mind and saying, okay, how does the femoral anteversion looks like? Because even there, every patient is different. How can we reconstruct femoral anteversion? Also, this is different from every patient, so no patient will have the same anteversion as before. And this might be one of the reasons why we do have dislocations, because if we are not able to reconstruct offset, but also the anteversion in the correct manner, dislocation, and that's what we can see here, is still one of the most common reasons for revision. So how can we reconstruct this kind of anatomy or biomechanics? In addition, as you have heard before from Professor Pfeil, the question is, how can we actually preserve soft tissue? Because soft tissue is, especially in the early beginning of recovery, quite important. We need to think about patients. In Switzerland, we do have a bit of an issue with our sport, because every patient really wants to do sport after 3 to 4 weeks already. We do have a lot of mountains, and especially in wintertime, if you do have a surgery, the patients do not want to stay at home. They want to go on the mountains and want to go skiing. So activity is getting more and more crucial for you, for the patient, and they really want to go to the same activities as they did before. On the other side, every patient is getting older. So we have on one side young patients, but also the population is getting older. So you do have to take care of the bone quality. What kind of bone quality do you have? What does the patient looks like? They want to do activities and so on. So in summary, our challenges which we are trying to face are the reconstruction of the anatomy, preservation of soft tissue, taking preservation of bone, prevention of osteolysis, because this results into revision, reduce stress shielding, to have the option in case you do have to make a revision that you still are able to use work with primary implants, and more crucial, to have good mid and long-term success. So this was the point when we said, okay, which kind of implants are actually working the best and which can really answer all of these questions. And by the end, we had to say our solution is the bone preservation system, which is Optimus and RM Pressfit Vitamys. So having a look at all of this data, short. As you have seen before, when we measured the 100 and 120 X-rays, we really thought, what is the right indication? What is the right guidance of the patient for the patient's anatomy? So we took the calca as our guide to reconstruct, to use this, by the end, to use the patient as our guide. Here an example from one of the surgeons from Austria. He has a coxavara hip. He used to work, or let's say Austria is used to work with swimular prosthesis. So he tried to make a pre-op planning with this kind of stem, which is quite popular. But unimportant if he's taking the 131-degree angle, or if he's taking the 121-degree angle, he was not able to reconstruct offset. The only option would be to take a next bigger size, which would result into a leg lengthening. And in Europe, it's quite a problem if you do make a leg lengthening, or if you look in the US, leg lengthening can really cost a lot of money. So people had to take care about this. And then he started and made a pre-op planning with an optimist, and he recognized it's quite easy actually. If you take the calcar as your guide, you do have the opportunity to really reconstruct the offset in a perfect manner, which you could not do with a straight implant. The reason for this is we do take the medial calcar, as I said before, as our guide, and once we have lateral contact on the proximal region, the stem will have a perfect fit. And based on the CCD angle, so unimportant which kind of CCD angle you use, the position of the stem will change from a real varus positioning down to the medial lateral fit, more in the proximal region. And this results into fact that we're going to have a possibility to have an offset range from 25 millimeter up to 70, depending how you position the stem in the femur, which is compared to straight stems, which are staying in the axis much more with only 24 implants. So you have to make a pre-op planning, you have to proper plan how to position it, but you can actually cover most of the offsets we were talking before. In addition, as you could see here, we can reconstruct it in really every different anatomy. But as you have seen before from Professor Pfeil with the anteversion, there's also the question, and our assumption was all the time, it seems to be that we can better reconstruct the anteversion in a perfect manner, and we have made a study on this and have had a look at a specimen, and what we have seen is we could reconstruct the femoral anteversion from the preoperative 21 degree, and we're staying at more or less 22 degrees, whereas a straight stem automatically reduces the anteversion from 21 down to 6 degrees. So again, thinking about dislocation and anteversion and having this kind of reduction, you are probably not really able to reconstruct the anatomy in a perfect manner. And that's also one of the reasons why in the short stems in general to have less dislocations risk than traditional straight stems. If you look at soft tissue, and what we have seen before, due to the reason that we are not going as far lateral as we need, we just rather start medially and only go to the maximum point, we are able to preserve this area, which is reduces time in hospital and also fast mobilization. And as you have seen before from Professor Pfeil, this is really the point where we need to take care of. How can we preserve this greater area? With Optimus, you really have the possibility to preserve this kind of bone, which is quite important for later recovery. As you can see here are all the soft tissues which we are able to preserve with a short stem, whereas with a straight stem, you have the risk to go more and more into this region. Osteolysis. Of course, we are talking about highly cross-linked polyethylene, we are talking about vitamins, but still, osteolysis are still a cure with modular cups due to the modularity. Every time you have some modularity, polyethylene is going to get through these screw holes, and it occurs that you do have this kind of wear in the backside wear, which results by the end into a revision on this side. With RM, as you're going to have only a monoplock cup, after 1 year, you can already see how the trabecular structure gets back onto the bone, onto the cup. It recovers the bone, and it means in case you have to revise a cup like this, you actually can use a primary implant again, which is much better than what you have with modular cups. That's what we could see as well here on this picture, that we can reduce the wear, the osteolysis with RM Pressfits, which would be then similar to ceramic on ceramic. The other question is, if you're going to think about stress shielding and think about this picture, this is a 20-year follow-up with standard polyethylene. We can see that the cup coverage, that the bone quality on this area up here looks actually like it would have been done just recently. So if you have to revise a cup like this, again, you can use the same implant or the same primary implant again. And this results actually due to the E modulus, because the E modulus of Vitamys is similar to bone, whereas a metal back cup has more or less a higher modulus of elasticity modulus, which means it has much stiffer, and as we know, forces are going to get through stiff material. We will have a stress shielding after certain times. Here's an example. What you can see here, this is kind of stress shielding. You see an increase of bone density on the acetabular rim, whereas on the pole region, we do have a stress shielding quite aggressively. After 1 year, when there was the revision, after 1 year, you could already see that the bone starts to recover and that we can really try to preserve bone in the acetabular area. That's what we have seen as well in one of our studies being done in Switzerland with 50 patients, 1 year follow-up. So you could see an increase of the bone density in zone 1 and 2. So in this area, which is actually the most important area, which we do need to preserve bone, because the majority of acetabular cups are moving upwards, so cranially. On the stem side, we do have seen that we were talking from straight stems, and we were talking all the time of proximal or distal fixated stems, but by the end, it's all about primary fixation. All the straight stems do have a stress shield in the proximal region, what you can see here on a distal fixated stem, so a swimeller prosthesis, or on a proximal fixated stem, which still has the stress shielding in this area. With the option of using the tubercular structure, the way how it is structured, the bone, and looking at the implantation of Optimus and how the Optimus is going to be performed, we could reduce stress shielding even in this area. So you see there is of course a slight decrease in Kuhn zone 1, but all of the other zones could be preserved quite well. And even after 5 years, everything stays stable. So by the end, what we can say is, after 9 years on Pressfit Vitamys, we do have a survival rate of 98.9%, or 100% after 5 years, and with Optimus right now, and survival rate in our studies of 98.4% after 6 years. And that's where you're going to have the success, because it's quite easy to implant once you know how the workflow looks like, and it gives you great results and also great outcome from the patients. So in summary, all of this kind of questions and challenges we do have, we could actually really address with the system. Thank you.